Welcome to another episode of Unqualified Uprising. Today, it's the saga of the box plant. Many moons ago, I worked at a box plant. I can't really be much more descriptive than that because it's literally what we did. We made boxes. Every facet, every box you could think of, every color you could think of printed on the box. Today is that story. I'm your host, Mike. I'm bringing in my co-host, Tom.
So happy to be here today.
I bring in my producer, Adam.
Hello.
The sigh is because I'm so happy I never ever have to walk into this place again. But we are going to go through what it's like to work, I guess you would say in any factory, but this is a paper and paper products specific factory. I worked there from, I want to say 2009 to maybe 2014, 2015. I worked there a good chunk, I think either 8 or 9 years, so maybe it was closer to 2017 when I got out of there. I did not leave on good terms, but this is not an attack on them. This is just an attack on the whole factory industry. And I know that's a broad term. I say that for a reason, but a lot of guys and a lot of girls that work in some kind of production plant or work in some kind of factory where it's hot and it's miserable are going to understand some of the things that we're talking about. The factory, I'm not going to say its name. We're going to try to keep people's names out of this. We're allowed to say them, but we just don't want to because a lot of these people are still around and a lot of these people are near us. So we're not going to talk bad about anybody. We're just going to tell you a little bit. You're going to get a little insight of how shitty it was to work at this place. I'm going to tell you how I got hired. This is where I had my first interaction with Tom. I've had a lot of good memories at this place, but the majority of them are absolutely terrible. Tom, do you want to set the stage a little bit about this place and how you got in, and then I'll set the stage about how I got in, and we'll get into the meat and potatoes of why we think this is an interesting topic and just some of the mayhem that occurred.
Okay. Well, when I started out there, at first I was working at a home improvement store.
Okay.
With Mike's wife.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I knew Mike's wife before I knew Mike.
Wow.
Mike would come in once in a while, and Mike's wife would talk about this place that he worked at. I think at the time it wasn't such a horrible place. So
it was great.
Thought, yeah. So,
well, it was great money, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
It wasn't a great place.
I think that maybe both of us were sold on the money because the money was pretty good comparatively in the town, very good. So that's why we went through hell to make. That's why you sell your soul. You sell your soul. So I recall that Sarah telling me that it was what seemed to be like right next door to my house or something.
Yes.
So
you lived in downtown Amsterdam, and it was right near your house.
Yes, I could walk to it, and I lived on the same street with another employee that worked there.
Yes, you did.
Yes. So I just filled out an application. I think I got a call in like half a day.
You got to call it. Yeah. 5 minutes. You dropped off the application, and they tackled you before you left.
Yes. Can you start yesterday? So I did get a call right away, and I went on the job interview, and I think they called me another half a day saying, "Can you take a drug test or whatever and come to orientation?" So I think within a week, it should have been a sign, but within a week, I was starting after I got hired. So
okay, I'll stop you there.
Okay.
So I lived on Edson Street in the city of Amsterdam, and our downstairs neighbor knew somebody, or some asshole knew some other asshole, and I somehow got an interview at that place. They brought me in. I talked to some guy, and it was like a pre-interview. It wasn't even a real job interview, but there was 20 other people there. So they talked to me. They got a sense of who I was, wrote down some stuff. I went home. I lived a mile away, so you were a lot closer. I drove home, but I lived up a hill. So they called me like a week later. You have to come in and take a test. And I'm like, okay, I got to go in for a drug test. Okay, cool. I get there, and it's an actual fucking test. It's like a 30-page test, and there's 8 other assholes in this room with me looking at this test like, what are we doing here? So I am telling you the truth, and if any of our millions of fan out there, if anybody knows this test, no one that works in a box plant should be taking this test. The second or third question was, which one of these helicopters will take off on the moon? That was the second or third question. And it had a little picture of a helicopter and a little picture of a moonscape. And I had to figure out which one of these helicopters, if any, took off on the moon. Another one was a stack of boxes, which I could understand, but it was the optical illusion one where there's boxes stacked this way and boxes stacked that way, and you have to pick how many boxes. These were fucking questions for a NASA scientist. I filled it out in 20 minutes. I got up. I gave it to this weirdo that we'll talk about another time, well, in this story. I gave it to this guy, and I walked out. There's no way I could have done it. I wrote, helicopters don't fly on the moon. That was my answer.
Was it multiple choice?
No, it was questions and like why? Yeah. How would it take off? And I wrote, there's no oxygen on the moon. I don't think there's any lift.
Right.
And I don't think a helicopter flies on the moon.
No. Probably not.
I didn't need that to work at this place. Right. Let me tell you, there weren't any helicopters and there wasn't no fucking moon.
There was no relevant questions on this test is what you're saying.
Yeah. But I did get a sense that this place was official, and I got right away, I got the hint that this was the real deal. This was a legit place, and there was other people trying to get in here. So that was my initial feeling.
Opposite of me.
Oh, well, you came in after me.
Yeah.
I was there for the entire downfall. So, except the end. I missed the end.
The end was horrible, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you remember your first day? Because I got to take a drink.
Yes. My first day, I went there, and I did orientation for about 4 or 5 hours. I think this test sounds familiar. I think they might have given me the same test on during orientation. And I did get to spend 2 hours on the floor stacking. They had a stacking machine on the 2300, if you know what that was. That was a box making machine. It was just one of several that we had on the floor. And so I wind up, my first day winds up 5 hours of orientation and 3 hours of stacking boxes.
Yes,
bundles.
They called these machines flexos.
No, the flexo machine. Yes, that's right. The 23 flexo is what I was on.
So a little description of this place. It was a giant concrete and tin building, like a jail.
It did look like a jail, yes.
There were, I think, fences out back where the rail. We had a rail car. We had a train. We had a train thing, a train depot.
Oh, that freaked me out because a train would run through the building. There was it was a stop to pick up rolls, and it went through our plant, like right through our plant.
So you got to think this place is probably 10 football fields, all combined into one, with an extension on the roof, with a giant apparatus on the top. It would be a blower if anyone was concerned.
Right.
That sucked up scrap from the machines and from the giant shredder. This place was a huge complex. It had a huge shipping department where you could stack shit 20 feet in the air, it was monstrous. Fork trucks running all over the place, conveyor belts all over the place. Everywhere there was conveyors. Everywhere you heard everywhere. It was insane. Anybody's ever worked in some form of manufacturing that have conveyor belts or anything like that, they understand what we're talking about right now. They had these little grates that went across the conveyors that no one's foot, the skinniest person in the world's feet, would not fit on these things. They might as well have thrown like a sheet of ice down, and you're supposed to cross these rollers. And we always used to get in trouble because people would just walk over the rollers because it was safer than walking on the grates.
Right. Yes. I wanted to walk on the rollers myself. Wasn't allowed. We had to walk on the slippery safe walk.
So this place consisted of a nice office area in the front with glass, and you could watch the sunset and watch the sunrise, nice air conditioning, everything was beautiful.
Nice view, too.
Nice view.
Yeah.
It transitioned down to like hallways where one led to a break room, which always got people sick because it was 400 degrees inside of the factory, and then you would go down to a 60-degree cave and sit there for 20 minutes and get all nice and cool and then go back up and fry again.
Yes.
So people were constantly getting too hot, too cold, and getting sick. Everybody was sick. Everybody was miserable.
Yeah.
So the break room had a couple of hallways that connected other ways to like design rooms and shit. But then you would emerge from your cave after you put on your shoes in the locker room that stunk like BO and pee. I mean, it is a locker room, but this was enormous smells of BO and pee.
Yeah, it was pungent.
It was pungent. And the sewers would always back up.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. The sewers would always back up, and there would be just sewer water trickling up, like emerging, like the chuds emerging from the sewer grates. We had to get a shit grinder at one point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's we'll
that was
continue.
bad.
That was the end, yeah.
Yeah.
So you would emerge from there and immediately be greeted by a brick wall, and you would have to take an immediate left and go up the stairs. There was one set of stairs, the one escape.
Okay.
So you would go up the stairs, and immediately in front of you, running horizontal, were just 10 foot wide and about 900 feet long conveyors, straight to this horrible machine called the corrugator, which we comically named it the Mangler, if you ever seen that movie. So this is a machine that's about a half a football field long, if not longer. It's all interconnected machines, and what it does is it takes a giant roll of paper, folds it up, glues it up, or folds it up, rolls it, unrolls it, rolls it some more, heats it up, somehow folds the liner, it was like the liner, the bottom liner, and the median. It takes a center roll, a top roll, and a bottom roll, and somehow combines them into boxes, but not actual boxes, sheets of plywood that we turn into boxes. So it would have to heat it and cool it and run it through huge drums that are all heated in a huge press that pressed it together with glue. Pretty much the most horrible machine you could ever think of.
And the rolls it seemed like they were 30 feet long. It seemed like people were wrestling with those rolls. Like if it was a windy day, let's say, and we were outside, you can get lost in those rolls.
Without a doubt.
They would take you out.
They're, I think, a couple tons, or they're 9,000 pounds or some shit. They're enormous. They're, I think, probably 6 feet around and probably 8 or 9 feet tall. So
yeah, they use a clamp truck with them.
They had to have a giant clamp truck, which is a giant fork truck with lobster claws on the front that would grab these things and put them on this machine. And these fucking guys would push these things onto roll stands and have to fight with these things. And there were crowbars, and they had headsets on, and
they looked like slaves. They did. They looked like slaves.
They looked like they were building the pyramids.
Yes, they did.
Yeah,
they did.
The real bad slaves, the ones that built the pyramids, like the one they could have had pharaohs behind them whipping them. It was that.
That's what I was thinking. That was the only thing missing was somebody whipping them, and because that's what it looked like. The slaves that would be on the boat or whatever, just constantly cranking, Row. Keep rowing. And they were sweating, and I think in those days they were allowed to wear the bare minimum in clothing. So, shorts and maybe a wife beater or whatever they were wearing, if that even, if they didn't take the shirt completely off.
Yeah, when I first started there was dudes that were shirtless, but they were in good shape.
Yeah.
They didn't want anybody like us shirtless.
No, probably not.
No. So I started after I made it through the helicopter test and I passed my drug test. I started on the corrugator. Like I said, the corrugator was nicknamed the Mangler. I would have called it the fucking burner because it burned the shit out of me so many times. I should have not. No one, anybody that worked on that corrugator, no one should have been about 400 feet near that corrugator. That thing was the most dangerous thing in the world. You would press a button and shit would start smoking.
Oh yeah, it made a lot of noise too.
It made more noise, and not only did you have the noise from the machines, you had a headset on where you could get communicated with.
Yes.
Which we did not use it. We used them for communication, but it was mostly busting balls.
Probably, yeah.
So at 6 in the morning, you're winging insults at the guy next to you, and you're saying shit, and it's all it's all compartmentalized inside your head.
Yeah.
And there's also a machine going on, and we all range from the ages of probably 20 to 40. So there weren't any super old people on that machine, other than one of the operators, a big heavyset guy that used to sit in there and just yell at us.
Yeah, it's in the office or whatever.
Sit in the air conditioning.
Yeah,
just
right there,
yell
that
at
air
us.
conditioned room. Yeah.
Go.
So, but I mean, eventually, they did try to rebuild the thing. They took it down. I remember when I started there, they took it down. Maybe a year and a half later, they had to totally rebuild it because it was so dangerous.
One of the parts came in on, I think, a Maersk ship in the East Harbor or whatever it is in New York City, and they dropped a piece of it in the ocean. They dropped a piece of it in the harbor, and they had to like fish it out with a crane and let it dry out a little bit, and then they sent it to us.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, and we.
That was the time we were cleaning the place. I think for 2 weeks. I don't even know how long it took, but
we shut down to clean the place. It was that dirty.
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, yeah, it was pretty dirty, but it was just trying to keep busy for a few weeks was tough.
The sounds, we need our fan to realize the sounds that came out of this place. There's no way I could describe it except go to your radio, turn the loudest obnoxious song up that you know, turn it up to 100, and just stick your head right next to the speaker. And that's what you heard. You had to wear earplugs.
Or maybe a out-of-area AM station real loud that's playing a rock and roll song that you enjoy.
Yeah, even
staticky.
Worse. Yeah, staticky and horribly.
Barely hear it and staticky. Yeah.
And you always got you always were delighted to hear the like all that nonsense.
Plus a distinct smell. I would walk in there and the heat would just blast me right when you walked in the door to get to work. The heat would just blast you walking. You hear all those machines. You'd hear the palletizer and the corrugator at the same time, and that smell. You'd smell it was a pulp, a paper, or unitizer. I meant to say it would smell like it had a distinct smell to it, and it would all hit you like a ton of rocks right when you walked in the door. You'd be knocked on your ass.
You know how like cedar wood smells good?
Yes.
This was like moldy cedar wood. Like that's the only really way I can describe it because obviously paper would get it, but think about wood that sat around for fucking 100 years and add heat to it. That's I can't describe the smell.
I would say it smelled like rotten meat to me.
Rotten meat.
That's what it smelled like to me, like rotten meat.
I didn't smell rotten meat,
but you got your own version of it.
It
smelled.
Rotten meat would have been great. I would if I didn't have to work there, I would have eaten rotten meat. If they said, "Hey, if you eat this rotten meat, you don't have to come to work," I would have eaten rotten meat every fucking day. That place was going to that place was under the jail. That place was horrible. It was the worst place I ever worked. They treated you. I'm telling you, the dudes that built the Sphinx and the pyramids got treated better than these people.
In the beginning, though, as we agreed, we talked about before. Actually liked the job, believe it or not.
Yeah, it was a decent job. It was still extremely dangerous. None of us were actually really trained to be there. Even the operators that had been there for years, there was never a real professional training system set up where you knew how to troubleshoot everything. The only way you knew it is from experience, and unfortunately, $30 an hour ain't enough to pay someone that's that experienced on these machines. These guys, some of them were savants on these machines, me included at a point. I was so good on one of them that I and the guy on second shift, we were breaking records. We were running so much dog food bone fucking boxes, milk bone boxes, that we were getting pizza parties and shit. But it was insanity. We everyone could have lost a finger at any given moment. I know a dude that did lose a finger.
I almost lost mine.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I almost remember my finger being a pulp one time.
So what do you remember about that place?
Well, I remember, like I said, I remember liking the job at first. I think the first few weeks I was on the shredder. That was probably the best job.
The best job in the whole place.
Yeah.
And any of our millions of listeners, if they ever hear this and any of them had worked at this place, they will agree with us. The shredder was the best job in the shop.
But at the same time, it was an okay, because it was mindless. You were just left alone. And all you were doing was feeding this thing. This thing was a big monster that you just fed it. You fed it paper. But the one drawback of it was sometimes you had those big rolls from the corrugator.
Yes.
And they can get pretty freaking heavy.
Yes. So we're talking 700, 800 a ton. Like we would have to shred these rolls of paper.
And for the night, sometimes it was, you could never finish it. You're thinking, oh, well, I could get a break if I finish this. And they'd be dropping off these rolls there. Like it was, you'd think like, I could see the end. I could see the end. I could see this being done.
The light at the end of the
light
tunnel.
At the end of the tunnel. I'm going to be done. When I'm done with this shit, I'm going to go downstairs in the air conditioning for 45 minutes and just like sigh. But it never happened. There'd be some other freaking clamp truck with about 20 other rolls. Just dump it at your feet, and you're thinking, God, this shit, more than I can lift, but you lift it anyway somehow. Somehow you managed to fucking get that shit in there some way. And it was just like a big freaking cookie monster. Just chomp, 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 chomp. It was like Pac-Man.
Okay.
So that was one memory. I'm just saying, so it kind of segued. I remember our plant manager, who not a lot of people like necessarily.
Hold on. Before you run off on that random, I have to give our fan the description of this shredder.
Go ahead.
Because your description is
all right. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
Go. You set it straight, Mike.
So this monstrosity had, I believe, a 9-foot wide opening with a belt, and it was, like I said, it was 9 foot wide, but there was a metal stop, so it would only allow maybe, we'll say, 7 or 8 inches of material in there at a time. So you could take a bunch of boxes and put them on this belt. This belt would turn and bring the boxes slowly towards this fucking giant toothed, it would be like a drivetrain in a car with giant teeth on it, almost like a boring drill, almost like a drill bit with just these huge metal teeth on it that would just chomp this shit up.
It almost looked like a animal or a monster.
It
looked like eating them. It almost looked like a shark chomping away at that. You're feeding somebody. You're feeding a beast.
You are feeding a beast, and next to it, it had another conveyor belt that took all the scrap that you were making and shot it up a tube, and the tube came down into a bale machine, and it would make these giant bales, and the horn would go off, and it was just a whole bunch of fucking insanity. And
every third bale would break.
You'd have to go over there and shovel it back into the shredder. It was the worst. It was horrible. It was.
And that was the best job there.
That was the best job there. And this job was horrible. Yeah. And the fucking horn would go off. The horn was so loud it would scare the shit out of people. Me and another dude would always jam it all the time, and we would jam it so bad. He'll always blame me, and I still see this guy to this day, and we still laugh about it because it was my fault. But some of the greatest memories I had there were on the shredder, laughing with these guys, laughing with maintenance, We worked with a lot of characters. We're not going to name anybody, but we worked with a lot of characters. I don't really necessarily have ill will towards anybody. I worked with some assholes, but whatever.
You didn't. That particular job is probably the only job there you really didn't have to think while you were working. I mean, you just
the shredder.
Yeah, you just
didn't have to stick your arms in there. That's it.
Just don't put your hands in there. Whatever you do,
do not put your body in there. And I think people did still.
It's just funny when you think towards the end how they just like went so crazy with the safety. It was almost like a gate. I mean, I just remember they protected it, overprotected it.
Well, didn't you get caught in it? You didn't get caught in it, did you? Or
no, I never got in trouble.
You didn't get on the belt and try to grab something out of there. I thought you got in trouble for that. Well, some idiot got in trouble for that. They climbed on the belt and was like jamming their hand in this fucking thing.
Oh, I wouldn't have done that, but I probably had my feet off the floor before trying to yank something out.
Yeah, I did so.
Yeah, so I mean that much I've done that I probably could have gotten in trouble for.
This whole fucking place looked like a tetanus shot, just waiting to happen. This whole fucking place.
Memories.
Excuse me. So then you got the shredder. So we went over the corrugator,
yes.
Nicknamed the Mangler.
Yes.
The shredder, it looked like you could lose an arm just by walking by it.
Right.
And you got to understand the mess. We had inexperienced people, so we made a lot of waste. I'm talking these carts are say the junk carts are 10 feet wide, 10 feet long by 3 feet wide.
Probably right.
We would bring 20 of them down a day, if not more.
That thing itself would weigh over half a ton. I mean, they would be pushing a half a ton of more board to you. I mean, at least a half a ton. Christ, those things were heavy, and they were falling off. The shit be falling off the side, and the carts didn't work. The one wheel was bad. Fuck, that shit was a mess. Even getting them. Sometimes you pick them up yourself. If you happen to have nothing by the machine, you would go by all the flexos and pick up all the waste and bring it yourself to the shredder. that was an adventure all in itself.
So, not only did they have those two machines, we had a whole entirely separate shipping department with 8 or 9 fork trucks running around at every single moment. And the fork trucks had to look out for you, but you had to look out for the fork trucks. I almost got run over probably 400 times, and that's probably light for some people because you had to dart around there. You had to dart. You had to get back to your machine before your break was over. You had to run and get Gatorade. You had to run and get fucking everything.
Those drivers were hustling. They had to hustle, otherwise they'd made a mess if they didn't hustle.
Those guys had to hustle every second.
Yeah.
Listen, those guys worked crazy. They used to get off their fork truck and they'd grab a heat sensor and they would hit their fork truck with the heat sensor. It'd be like 300 degrees on their seat.
Yeah.
Sitting there frying.
But they had to keep moving, man. I just remember back by the flexos, they had to keep moving or those bundles would fall. The bundles coming off the cord, those things would fall. Those stacks, if they didn't pick it up right, those things would fall and they have a mess. And it would happen more than once. And if they, in the later days or towards the end, if one happened to fall, which was not uncommon, they get written up for it. So that was that was a nightmare in itself. I drove a fork truck for a little bit over there. Thankfully, I didn't go to shipping. I wound up on the Flexo machines in my first leg there. So Mike's having a drink right now. So we
talk about the flex. Do you remember what Flexos they had? Because we went over to Corrugator, we went over shipping department, and we went over the unitizer, the fucking unitizer.
Yeah, the unitizer was in. I'll say this about the unitizer. Years working there, it's one machine that I never had to operate, and then one day they were shorthanded, and we were working a Saturday, a 12-hour Saturday. Thanks for the fat paycheck and all, by the way.
Yes,
but goddamn,
but
fuck if, and that's when one of our favorite supervisors was there.
Not gonna say
I'm not saying the name, but so
which one? Southern Boy.
Yeah,
Southern Boy.
Yeah.
One of them is Southern Boy. The other one is Boston Boy.
Oh, it would be Southern Boy.
Southern Boy,
yeah.
okay.
Right.
Petrod Farms.
Yeah.
Petrod
Farms.
Yeah, Petrod Farms.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Petrod Farms says.
No, they said okay. So there's nobody. They fired the guy they fired 2 people, I think, in 2 weeks that ran the unitizer forever.
Okay.
And I had happened to fire 2 of them.
Yeah, get out of here.
Get out of here. So I'm in there on the Saturday. They have nobody to run the goddamn unitizer because I happened to be shop steward also. I was there when this other person was fired the night before.
Oh, lovely.
And so
dropping like flies.
Right. So you had to be, the one rule they did have for these machines, you had to be qualified to operate certain machines. So you had to be qualified on all 3 Flexos to be able to run them. So I got a 10-minute lesson on
You're qualified.
They consider me. Now that means
You're up.
I could do it every day for the rest of
for millennial perpetuity.
But in this particular moment in time, I got a backlog of freaking pallets coming towards me with boxes on them that I have to somehow get it through this unitizer and have them all wrapped.
Hundreds.
It was a disaster.
Probably 100.
Oh my
Probably
gosh.
hundreds of them.
It didn't go well for me that day. I think I wound up freaking like wrapped up and put on a pallet, and I wound up being shipped off to some company in Wisconsin because it was a freaking disaster. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. 10 minutes wasn't going to teach you anything on that thing. I mean, God, this is towards the end, by the way, but I think in the beginning I might have got some training on it, or they never would have fired they would have waited to fire the people they wanted to fire. So, so I'm thinking this is the next. What if I never learned it? Like, there's some people that just don't get certain jobs, even no matter how much you train on it. Like, you might have been a master of the 25. But
the ward, not the 25. The 25 scared me. And I cried
all right.
at night.
So you were a master on the ward.
Yes.
And the 25, not so much.
Right.
So I'm saying, like, you might not have ever been good on the 25.
Correct.
So let the people stay where they're good at.
Correct. When we describe the Flexos, I'll tell you where we were good at. But
yeah,
I don't. A lot of our more novice listeners that haven't been in factory life don't understand what you mean when you say unitizer, palletizer.
I know.
They have no idea. So.
Yeah.
What the unitizer was, all those 9,000 miles of conveyor belts, they all converge at the fucking unitizer. What the unitizer does is it puts pieces of cardboard or plastic or whatever they had on the sides of these stacks of boxes and these other whatever shit we had. Stacks of boxes, stacks of regular sheets of cardboard. They would head towards this machine. The guy would have to put on these side sheets and then hit buttons to correspond with the strapping pattern that whatever place they were going to wanted.
the green strapping usually.
The green strap.
Yes.
So you would hit a button and about 19 things would start happening and there'd be strap flying all over the place. And
Yeah. That's what happened to me. It wasn't just one button. It was like you had to hit one.
Press one button, turn another button, blink twice, and step on
Oh gosh,
foot pedal.
yeah. Say there's no place like home. It was button, like 3 buttons, and I think like I just wasn't getting it.
Nobody got it. It was insane.
Yeah, I just wasn't getting it. And here I am, 10 minutes. Like it was one of the maintenance guys showing me how to do it for before he had to go home. He had worked 12 hours, so. This is my it was on a platform. I remember there was a platform right there.
There was a platform.
So, yeah, I was standing there for, oh, my gosh, 10, 11. I don't think I might have successfully got through 5 or 6 the whole night because I just kept the strap broke on me, of course.
Listen, here's what happened. I'll tell you exactly what happened.
Go ahead.
The person that ran it before you ran it to its exact breaking point, and as soon as you walked by it, shit started breaking. It was probably like your second or third button you actually pressed. As soon as you pressed it,
yeah.
People need to understand that this shit would come down from the sky and also feed shit from the bottom. So you were fucked double. You were double fucked. It was coming from the bottom and the top. It was fucking terrifying.
Oh, God, yeah.
And everything was metal. Everything you touched, you got smashed by. If you walked 1 mile an hour and your head bumped into something, you had a concussion. But this is one machine. This is the unitizer. This machine was terrible.
But I've seen people do it relatively easily. I mean, I'm just saying 1 or 2, but I think it was a skill position. I mean, I think they were all skill positions.
Yes.
But in this case, somebody had to get used to it. The people that were there had a trainer work with them for 2 or 3 weeks. You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, 2 people are fired, and I'm standing there in the, God, here, we want you to run this for us, Tom. You can figure it out in 10 minutes. And trial by fire, so to speak, but not an important day where you have
millions and millions of boxes.
I could hear people yell like, what the fuck is going on down there? Because they had to turn off their machines because I was backed up to the other end of the plant. had no, and the one supervisor comes back. I guess he left to get something to eat or whatever. He comes back wondering what the fuck is going on. All I could say is, like, what the hell do you expect?
Yeah, and they didn't care. They did
It's
not
like-
care.
yeah, like,
They fed on that. That whole place fed on anger, pettiness, fucking people over. It was the piranhas.
I'm surprised I didn't get written up for that day. Jeez, you were qualified. we gave you the 10-minute course, and golly. Well, that was towards the end, so I guess you just jump all over the place. But I'm saying, but back towards, I think people got trained properly.
Nobody got trained.
Well, when I first started there, it just seemed like to me, my experience might have been different than yours. I kind of like the supervisors that were in place at the time that I started. They were only there maybe a few months after I started before they were all canned, and it went downhill fast. But I thought those guys, while the plant was a mess, I think they cared, and I think the plant made money in those days.
It did.
Yeah.
It was a lucrative business in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah,
the
it's a
cars
dying
were-
breed. It was a dying breed by the time we got there. Yeah.
So I guess when this place opened and was running full bore, they had lines out the door for jobs. You could not get into this place unless you knew somebody. I only got in because I knew somebody, but it was a lot less. It was a lot less prevalent when I got there. There were no lines of people beating on the door.
I had heard about that. There'd be one position, and there'd be
40 applicants.
There'd be 40 people, so
Yes.
you'd really be a crapshoot to get that job.
So we talked about the shredder. We talked about the corrugator. We talked about the unitizer.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get into the flexos.
Okay.
So for the people out there that don't know, they call them flexo folder gluer machines, I believe is the actual term. The reason they call them flexos is because they flex the box as it goes through. They bend the box.
Fold them.
Yeah. They fold them, and then they glue them. This machine is connected to conveyor belts that send the made boxes in stacks of 20, 25, 15, whatever the customer wants. They send them into a bander, which is not part of the machine, but it's connected to the machine. It's not. When you buy the machine, it doesn't come with it. You got to buy that shit separate. This is how they get you. That's how the machine makers get you. But anyways, the boxes come out, and a guy has to stack them. So before it even gets to the stacker, it's got to be put on the machine by a fork truck, and the boxes come at you, and they go into a pre-feeder. The pre-feeder lifts them up, pushes them towards you, and they fall into the machine. The machine sucks them through. They get folded, they get printed on, they get glued, and they head out the other end as a made box. That's how a flexo folder gluer works. And that's how they all worked when I got there.
Not so much.
Not so much after the fact.
Well, I remember it used to be easier because you're on the other end of a conveyor. They would come out of the conveyor wrapped neatly, mostly neatly in the beginning, in what you're saying, bundles of 20 or 25.
Right.
And they would come around to this, which was a nice setup, actually. The stacker was a nice setup because
Everything was right there.
Yeah. Back boxes, you didn't have to actually bend over. You hit a button, and it would just be automatic. It ran automatically, and then it would mechanically give you 5 layers or whatever you need. You would set it to be 5 layers, a box, and it would take off towards the unitizer when you were done.
So I caught the old guard in their golden years. The guys that have been there for many, many years, I caught them towards the end of their retirement. 25-year guys, 30-year guys. So there was a new breed coming in. The new breed was less experienced. The older guys got very frustrated with the new talent. The new talent did not last long. If I worked there 9 years, I bet you I saw 500 guys before I got kicked out of that place. The turnover was ruthless.
At the last 2 years especially, I think that they were firing people like crazy and hiring people like crazy. Oh, this guy doesn't work. Let's start with this guy. This guy doesn't work. And they're firing people that were there a long time, too.
They wanted to get rid of people with 6 weeks vacation.
Yeah.
That's what they were trying to do.
Right.
And they were trying to either outsource to Mexico or just get out of New York because of taxes. And they felt like our attitudes, being a union shop, weren't up to snuff. But they need to understand, like our viewers need to understand, we were running machines that were basically airplane fucking motors connected to each other. And we had to stand next to them and stick our fucking hands in them. And when I described how the Flexo is supposed to work, let me tell you, they didn't work like that. So first the guy would put the stack of unfinished boxes, just flat cardboard, on the rollers, and they would promptly fall over because like 4 of the rollers didn't work, so you had to go back and stack them. As soon as the guy put them on, they'd fall the fuck over.
Yes.
So now you stack them. So now the load's all disheveled. And, of course, they fell over and went all over the place. And, of course, you could only print on one side of the box. So you had to stack them in the right fucking angle or the print would look all fucked up. So you couldn't stack them. I didn't know what I was doing, so whatever.
Yeah.
Fuck it. So then it would go up into the pre-feeder, and the pre-feeder would jerkingly raise it up and down. And then this pusher would come out and push the boxes onto the conveyor. The conveyors were all fucked up. So one time I was working on the 2500, which are just, they went 21, 23, 27, 35, 25. Those were the machine names and moniker. The corrugator was 1010. The shredder was 01. And the unitizer was like 2024 or some shit like that. That's what they called all these machines. I can't remember exactly what the shredder was. I thought it was 1, but whatever.
I just called it shredder.
Yeah, everybody calls it the shredder. So I was on the 25, and the pusher pushed the boxes out. The first one got caught under the belt, and all of a sudden, it was a cascade of boxes flying towards me.
I think I remember that.
Every angle, just piling up all over me. I'm getting knocked down. There's shit falling all over me. People are pointing and laughing. Other people are trying to help me. But this was an everyday occurrence. This wasn't just me. It was everybody all the time. This place was a fucking zoo. I can't describe it. I can't tell you.
I remember the 2700 having a similar thing. I'm standing on the other end of the wall by the dye room with one of the supervisors, and I'm just looking over. I'm like looking over at the horizon, and I see this. It just seemed like a cloud of smoke made of corrugated board. It was going to the ceiling. It was on the 2700, and I said to the supervisor, "There's something going on over there." And he does a beeline, jumps over the freaking conveyors to get over at the machine to stop it because I think we were shorthanded at that. Of course, yeah, we were shorthanded. Nobody could eyeball that, but it was so obvious. Holy cow!
We were shorthanded to the point where it wasn't even funny. It was like, it was funny, and everybody laughed at everybody else's
misfortune.
Yeah. Everybody loved that. So hey, look at Tom. Look at Tom. Look at how bad he's getting fucked over there. Like that was the best.
What's this? I hear this. What's this? I hear that.
What's this? Little bird told me.
There was always a
little bird told me. Listen, oh my God. And okay, so there are many things you had to do on these machines. There were about 6,000 buttons, and only about 4 or 5 of them were actually used. Yeah. There were sections. These machines would break into sections, and it was almost a guarantee that one of the sections on the machine didn't work for some reason. No one knew why. We had maintenance guys that would hotwire shit together, so you would stop the machine and other parts of the machine would still be running. You didn't know what the fuck was going on. It was the most... I've seen that place. I've seen it on fire. I remember one guy said there better not be an active shooter here because he's going to run out of bullets. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, everyone's going to run towards him. He goes, people hate this place.
The maintenance guys there were miracle workers, a lot of them, believe it. I don't know how they got that machine running half the time. It was patchwork, man. It was patchwork. It really was. They couldn't get... I don't know how they got it running, but somehow they would get these things running. But you're right. There would always be one part of it that didn't work right and would fuck everything up.
And these are $1 million machines. These are 700 and upwards machines, $700,000 and up.
The 2100. I mean, they were old, right? They were. I mean, even for when we worked there, they had to have been 50 years old.
The machine I ran on was a I think a either 78 or 68 Ward die cutter.
So they weren't computer ran like most machines. This is like mechanical ran.
They had
yeah.
mechanical parts with electronic upgrades.
Yeah.
Some of them, I believe the 2100 had a lot of manual shit, but it had a rudimentary computer. A lot of them had rudimentary computers. If you remember the 2700, it was like sitting down at fucking Chernobyl. It had a huge operating console.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Like blow dust off the buttons and stuff. Like I don't know what was going on.
Well, that one was the first to go when I got there.
What, the 2700?
Yeah, I think they took the 2700 down first.
Yeah, they started ripping machines out, and they brought the convicts up from New York City to build new machines. And I remember supervisors looking at me, and I said, "Hey, what's up?" And he goes, "Look at this guy." And now you weren't allowed to do shit in that building. You couldn't have your cell phone. You couldn't have a soda. You couldn't even talk to yourself. They didn't want you doing nothing. They wanted you to stare at the boxes and work, slave.
Well, we had freedoms, like I said, when we started that were ripped away from us by a couple of CEOs or whatever you want that took over the plant. Like I said, we always remember that we could wear shorts or go shirtless, whatever we wanted to do to be comfortable there. And it devolved into us having to wear long sleeve shirts.
A lead fucking basket. You gotta wear a potato sack to work every day. A full potato sack.
Right, and
jammies.
A helmet. I think we always had to wear the hard hats. The only thing was the uncomfortable part was you had to wear a hard hat all the time, and you had to wear boots with metal toes, tips on them. So outside of that, I mean, I was saying we had freedoms to dress the way we wanted, but they were taken away until we were just like I'm surprised they didn't roll us up in bubble wrap and make us go out on the machines.
They hated us so much.
Yeah.
They hated everything about their employees. I don't know why. It was like, hey, look, okay, we got a lot of smokers here. This is a factory job. This is maybe, not the best job. We got smokers here. Let's not let them smoke. That's a great idea. Let's take away smoking.
You were allowed to smoke outside. When I got there, every break there'd be 25 people smoking outside, enjoying cigarettes. One particular CEO comes in, rips it away.
No more.
No more smoking. No matter
more.
what. And it makes a mess or whatever. But who gave it? We're not making food. I'm just saying we're not making anything that's sensitive. That we're making boxes. Cigarettes get packed in boxes. So you're just out there smoking. You have that come out. You get that cigarette for a couple minutes, and you can enjoy. If you're a smoker, you can enjoy your cigarette. That's ripped from you. And people would say to me, because I think at that time I was shop steward when that happened. Well, they're forcing me to smoke and hide. I'm not gonna not. The people weren't gonna not smoke, and I think like 10 people actually quit because of that.
People did quit because of that, and I wasn't one of them. But I hid and smoked. I used to sneak out behind the corrugator and smoke. I did that before they outlawed smoking.
Yeah.
But the killer for me was when, and I have to preface this by saying, you would walk in there in February, and you would literally be in shorts. I would be in shorts the whole entire time I worked there. It was so fucking hot. You would walk in there. And when I say it was 120 degrees, it was 120 degrees.
I walked to work.
That.
I walked to work in shorts and a T-shirt, not a jacket. I would just walk to work like that, ready to go. There'd be ice on the ground, but I'd walk in the shorts.
So what happened? The guy was reaching for something sharp one time, and he cut his knee. Mm-hmm. So from that day on, we could not wear shorts ever again. And I remember people were fucking pissed at this guy. I was pissed at everybody was pissed at this guy.
I'm still pissed at him.
I actually know the guy. He's not a bad guy. He's a great guy from Krakow, Poland. Great guy. Insane, out of his mind, but not a bad guy.
I liked him.
Everybody liked him. He's not a bad guy, but he's just out of his mind.
He used to be a close talker in your face.
Close talker, and he had a thick Polish accent, and I mean straight from Krakow. This is not a joke. And he was very serious.
He'd twist your shirt like as he's talking, almost like
he'd
be
twist
in your
your
face.
Shirt. He'd touch you.
He'd grab your shirt like I can't describe it. Like he'd like almost grab your T-shirt.
Yeah, he'd yell at everybody.
Yeah, he made sure you're paying attention to him when he talked.
Yeah, he'd yell at everybody.
Oh yeah, people would quit over him.
Yeah,
I don't I didn't have that experience with him necessarily, thankfully, because I never really saw him. I saw him at his worst from a distance, but not to me directly, because I could see where people wanted to punch him or whatever, or have an altercation with him and walk away from him. But
they stuck me with him because they said that I had a very nice personality. So they didn't know me very well, but they stuck me with him, and I was kind of his antithesis. I think that's how you say the word, because I was all like, hey, man, be cool, dude. Like, I'm an ex-hippie, man.
Yeah, you were hip with him.
Yeah, but I was a little bit less. He was so professional, like not wearing a suit. It was so stereotypical. It would be a tracksuit. He would wear a tracksuit. He would wear an Adidas tracksuit.
But they had an imagery of you being a this tolerant person that can handle working for him.
Oh my God!
And you're the opposite, really.
He used to scream at me, and I used to scream at him back, and I knew he didn't understand what I was saying. I would just scream at. He would come back and make adjustments to the machine, and then come back 5 minutes later and yell at me for making those adjustments. I'm like, you did it. And he would scream, no, I did not. And he would scream at me and grab my arm, and I'd be like, get the fuck away from me.
He would touch you. He would grab
you. Yeah, he would grab you. Yeah. And it's not like he would grab everybody.
Yeah.
He would grab the supervisors and drag the supervisors over to point at shit. Oh, man.
So, come here. Let me show you. Like, grab my arm and pull me towards.
Listen, this is not any. He's a great guy.
I agree.
He lives probably half an hour away from me. Not a bad guy.
Yeah.
My dog pooped in his bedroom. I've been to his house. A nice guy.
That's a sign of a great guy when the dog poops in his bedroom.
Oh, he loved it. He wanted my fat beagle, to come over and hunt rabbits in his strangely arranged blue. So this guy was great. So he tells me one day, he goes, I got some blueberry bushes. I'm like, oh, cool. He goes, you got to come over and see. So I'm like, okay, maybe he's got 4 or 5 blueberry bushes. He's got 300 blueberry bushes lined up. All blueberries for years. He could give the whole capital region blueberries, and that's just another ironic thing.
Yeah. So in the break room, he just handed me fruit.
Yeah, he's a big fruit guy.
Yeah, have a banana, have a peach.
Fruit guy.
Yeah, he just I guess I ate well because of him and ate nutritious because of him half the time, because he just gave me a whole mess of fruit.
I worked with another guy who got arrested on a bench warrant, and they said, leave him here, it's worse.
Oh, gosh, really?
Yeah, I wasn't there exactly for the story, but what I heard, the cops walked in, they grabbed him, and they got near the exit, and they're like, this place is worse than wherever he was going to go. Leave him here. Yeah. And they're on a 12-hour, 3 a.m. shift, so that kind of bullshit. So they boned him bad.
Those 3 to 3s. Oh, my goodness.
I seen another guy run out the back door running from the cops. Yeah. This place was... if you didn't have a warrant, you weren't allowed to work there. I think this might need a part 2. Yeah, Tom's got to pee, but this is going to be a part 2.
Okay, we'll go end it right here.
Yeah, we'll end it here, and we'll post this one. And please like and subscribe on YouTube, and comment, please, if you ever worked in a factory and had a shitty fucking experience, because
this might be
everything.
This might be a 5-parter.
This might be a 20-parter.
So
we could do episodes on people that work.
We could base our whole podcast just on stories. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it is how we met.
Yes, that is true. That is true. It's a dynamic, and I'm happy to have met you.
Yes, sir.
And I look forward to doing part 2 of this.
This has been a marathon.
Yeah,
this going for 53 minutes straight on without. There's been a little bit of blah, 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 but not much. And I apologize to all the Adam fans out there. He didn't work with us there. He'll be more prevalent on the next episode.
You mean the one fan?
No, you have many fans.
Oh, God, the hate mail's coming.
Yeah, the hate mail's coming. Thank you for my co-host, Tom. Thank you for reminiscing with me about this horrible place that we worked at.
Thank you. Great memories.
I'm glad I'm glad I met you in hell.
Okay.
I'm glad I met you in hell.
Same.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Adam.
You're welcome.
This has been Mike. This has been another episode of Unqualified Uprising. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Bye for now.